Saulo anxiously contemplated the photo hanging on the living room wall. Unable to contain the longing he felt for his wife, tears were running down the man's face 2 years before his beloved wife, Maria, had died in a terrible car accident that strange night. She had lost control of the vehicle due to a sudden illness, crashing violently into a bridge support and crashing into dense forest. The car was found 5 days later, but strong river currents considerably complicated the search. When Mary's crumpled vehicle was recovered in the bottom of the river, his body was not there. Naturally, many experts assumed that the body had been dragged by the current of the river. For about a month they carried out intense searches tracing the fact of the river along several kilometers. However, the body did not appear. There had not been doubt that the young businesswoman had died in the car. Her personal effects were found, her work folder and her mobile phone. For Saulo, everything that happened seemed like a terrible nightmare. She expected to wake up at any moment, and for everything to disappear. Their marriage lasted 6 years, and was full of love and understanding. Her youngest daughter, Manuela, was her pride. The neighbors and some friends were even envious, because the 7-year-old girl was incredibly intelligent for her age. She loved to read, and already knew a lot of classical music. The first thing she did was comment on the books she had read with his mother, always eager to get his opinion. Now, sitting in the kitchen with tears in his eyes, Saulo recalled the wonderful times before tragedy struck his family, when everything was still going well, and his life was planned for the years to come. Maria was a successful businesswoman who conquered all with her extraordinary intellect and determination. Her fortune was in the 6 figures, automatically placing her among the most successful people in Chicago. After Maria's death, it was discovered that her money had been withdrawn from her bank accounts shortly before the terrible accident. In addition, the young businesswoman had not only sold her business to her competitors, but had also requested a loan with high interest in the bank. The most painful thing for Saul was that he was unaware of all this, and now he could not believe that his wife would have bankrupted him and his daughter. "How could you do this, Mary? Why did you use all our money and sold the business?" whispered to himself the miserable widower, crying silently so as not to wake his daughter. However, the real problem started long ago, a month when Saul received a call from the bank, informing him that the term for the payment of one of the loans had expired, and he had to make an urgent payment. But of course, the widower did not have that money, and now he was puzzled about how to get a sum so high. The emotional pain and feelings of resentment towards his wife, the fear of the unknown, all turned into a snowball that turned Saul's life into hell. He did not know how to tell his daughter that her mother was no longer alive, and that he would not return from his business trip. Now the constant calls from the bank and letters in the mail about repaying the loan became part of Saul's exhausting routine. With much effort, the poor man managed to borrow some money from his parents, and selling the car just enough to make the required payment. Once he left Manuela at home alone reading a book. Saulo went to the supermarket to buy something for dinner. When he returned half an hour later with bags full of food, he immediately realized that something terrible had happened. The house was turned upside down, which indicated that someone had been looking for something. But the worst was yet to come. Saul found his daughter's room empty. "Manuela, daughter, where are you?" the father shouted with a trembling voice. However, he only received silence, as a response interrupted from time to time by the check-chack of the wall clock. At that moment the phone rang, trying to balance itself among the things scattered on the floor. Saul hastened to answer. He was surprised to hear a horrible voice on the other end of the line, coming from an unknown person. "Hello, Saul. It must be a surprise to receive this call. Your wife owes me a large sum of money for 3 years, and I still have not heard from her. I am not willing to lose my investment, so your daughter will have to stay with me for a moment, of course, until you return the full amount with interest," declared the mobster on the other end of the line before hanging up. Saul was startled and exclaimed, "My God, Maria, what have you gotten yourself into?" He had already realized that his wife had gotten involved with dangerous people who did not consider human life as something valuable. Saul was not willing to negotiate with criminals, so he decided to go to the nearest police station to report everything that happened. When he got there, Saul found an officer on duty and told him the disturbing story. The concerned agent sent Saulo to speak with Laura, who worked in the organized crime department, upon hearing Saulo's confusing story. The agent calmed him down and promised to help him. Lara remembered the case of the mysterious death of Maria, and was practically the only one in the department who believed that she could still be alive. Unfortunately, at that time, no one listened to the young policewoman, and they considered her hypothesis a product of her imagination. To help Saulo, Lara planned a special operation to arrest the people who had kidnapped little Manuela. Fortunately, everything went well, and the girl was unharmed this time. Manuela did not even understand what had happened, since everything seemed like an adventure to her, as in one of her books. The criminals were arrested and immediately brought to justice, since they were guilty of several crimes that could lead them to serve several years in jail. The rescue of Manuela did not provide any clarification on the mysterious circumstances surrounding the death of Maria. 3 years passed quickly since then, and Saulo managed to pay off all his wife's debts and start a new life. Of course, it was a very difficult journey, but the widower had no other option. Saulo kept in touch with Lara, who continued to work in the department to combat organized crime. The two began to go out together, and it was clear that their friendship could turn into something more at any moment, giving them hope for true love. At one point, Saulo decided to make Manuela's dream come true and take her to see the sea up close. He planned a vacation at one of the Miami resorts, having a close friend offered to accompany them on this adventure. Saulo shared the great news with his daughter. "Thank you, Dad, now I can finally learn to surf," Manuela exclaimed, radiantly happy for having chosen one of the local airlines. Saulo, Lara, and Manuela flew to their dream in the paradise of Miami. They had a great time. The three of them enjoyed bathing in the sea, playing in the sand, and exploring the city. The holidays passed quickly, and it was time to return to Chicago. Sitting comfortably in his economy class seat, Saulo tried to relax and get some sleep, but resting was not exactly in his plans. Then Manuela approached and gently touched his hand. "Dad, I saw Mom in front with a man in first class," said the worried girl. Saul got worried and replied, "How could you have seen your mother, honey? You know it's impossible that you could have seen her." Her heart began to beat faster, but she didn't give much importance to what the girl was saying. However, Manuela kept insisting that it was really her mother who she had seen and no one else. So Saulo asked his daughter to tell him where her mother was. To her surprise, Manuela confidently led him to the first class, where Maria was sitting next to an elegant man. When she saw her ex-husband and her daughter, Maria's face immediately changed color, turning pale. Holding hands with her lover, Maria tried to pretend nothing was wrong. But of course she didn't succeed. "How am I to understand? You may have forgotten this, Maria, but you still have a husband and daughter who have been mourning your death all these years and have dealt with all the financial problems caused by your disappearance," Saul said aloud, and angrily Maria tried to express some response to Saul's accusations, but Lara, who had just reached them, did not allow her to speak. "I am forced to contact my colleagues in Chicago and Miami to question her. Mrs. Maria, I am sure that you are not a participant in having committed such crimes against your husband," Lara explained firmly in her words. When Lara stopped speaking, Maria completely dropped the mask. The woman realized that her trick had been discovered and that it no longer made sense to continue pretending. Shortly after, without answers and still under pressure, she said that she was unhappy and that she had forged all that to escape and live free from the life that, according to her, was boring. The unfaithful wife had used the money from the loan to buy a house on the beach and live the life of a successful businesswoman. Meanwhile, Maria, she never thought about the trauma that this had caused her husband and her son. Fortunately, thanks to Manuela's vigilance, who was already living several adventures in her own books, and to the help of the police as soon as they arrived at the drying room, Maria the scammer received what she deserved. Now, he will have to answer for his crimes and pay for everything he caused in the lives of Manuela and Saulo. Meanwhile, the two of them, together with Lara, will go ahead and live a happy life with no secrets between them. If you liked today's video, don't forget to subscribe to channel. I hope you have a good day and see you later.